Here we go. So, page 20, looking at the graph. We're going to go take each document one at a time. So we're going to start with Magna Carta and kind of go through these and talk about what you found and what you didn't find. Freedom of speech in the Magna Carta.
Heck no.
I don't think anybody had that marked. What about freedom of religion?
Just for the English church.
This guy over here has freedom of religion. Tristan.
So it does say, it says that the English church shall be free and have her whole rights and her liberties inviolable.
Okay, good.
I believe that.
Now, here's the thing. What is the dominant religion in 1215 in England? Catholicism, right? Now, the Protestant Reformation, guys, doesn't happen until 1570. 500 years ago, last year, okay, was when Martin Luther put his 99 Thesis up, okay? Now, so is there a chance that anybody else living in England at this point might be Jewish that doesn't believe in Christ?
Not Jewish, but...
What about pagan?
Yes.
It's possible.
I mean, somebody built Stonehenge, right?
Yes.
Well, were the Celts still around?
Aliens did that actually.
It's quite
Were there
possible.
still some descendants, some gypsies?
It's quite possible. Listen.
It is. So do those people have freedom of religion?
Nope.
Freedom of religion.
They have freedom to choose their religion.
Cross it out.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know.
No!
No.
No! It is the Catholic Church that dominates over England.
There's some records of some Vikings being Hindu back in the day.
Well, there you go.
They weren't Hindu. They weren't allowed to be Hindu.
They might have been Aryan.
What?
Aryan.
Aryan.
Aryan is an Indian term.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Indian?
Like from India?
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Jacob. Wow. All right. Hey, freedom of press. Anyone? No. Right to bear arms. Anyone? Not in there. What about no unreasonable search and seizure?
Yes.
Some of you had that.
Well, I mean, it didn't say that explicitly, but it's implied.
It is implied, isn't it?
Yes.
The Supreme Court would say they could do it.
Yeah, it's like 41.
41.
You could, like...
Yeah. Yeah, I think it kind of implies it there. Yeah? I'm going with a yay on that. Yay? Search and seizure?
Yep.
For
Magna Carta. Everything's Magna Carta right now. Now, due process of law.
yes.
Yeah, I thought
It is. Yes. Definitely. Okay. And trial by jury?
Yes.
Okay, so that, yeah, it's in there, right? Yeah, it's in there. And this, so think about that. That trial by jury in English law dates back to 1215. So it's a tradition, long held tradition, trial by jury. What about no excessive fines or bail?
I was thinking like taxes.
Taxes are different than fines. Let me give you an example, for instance. When Obamacare was being passed, they said that when you turn 27, you can no longer be on your parents' health insurance. When you turn 27, you have to buy health insurance or you pay a fine. Now, where in the Constitution does it give the power of government to fine you for not buying something? They don't have that power. So 26 states sued the Obama administration saying you can't force people to buy something. And so the Obama administration said to the Supreme Court, no, it's not a fine. It's a tax. And under the 16th Amendment, they can tax you. Okay, so similarly here, this is a tax, not a fine. So there's nothing in here specifically about excessive fines or bail. So, no. What about cruel punishment?
Well, you can't.
No.
Yeah, no, there's nothing
Now, you can kill somebody just as long as they have due process.
You can
Doesn't it say that?
punish them, can't you?
Does it say that?
They continue torture.
Destroy somebody? Or is that in the next one? No free man shall be seized, imprisoned, dispossessed, outlawed, exiled, or in any way destroyed
Without due process.
without due process.
So it can be destroyed.
You can be.
Physically or mentally.
What about the right to petition?
Of the nobles?
Only the nobles, but not you and I.
The nobles get
Now,
that.
you might see yourself as noble, but I don't. No, we had this argument earlier. Yeah, I mean, for the nobility, they are claiming a right to do this, but
Well, obviously
not
they
for
have
the
the
average.
right to petition because it's the Magna Carta, even though I put an X through it.
Yes. And habeas corpus.
Yes.
Yes. Okay? Yes. Habeas corpus is in there. All right, so we move to 1628 and the petition of right. All right, now, with this, guys, we're talking about King Charles. Okay? And King Charles, like King John before him, is kind of forced to sign this document. He doesn't really want to. And then after he signs it, kind of ignores it, which is going to cause him to lose his head by a bunch of puritanical Puritans that don't like him. They're going to cut his head off. So you can still destroy people. Okay. Now, Braden? Something to add?
Yeah, I was just looking at all this.
Yeah, okay, so Charles loses his head, and then so we get the long parliament led by Oliver Cromwell. Barber? Barber?
That was our barber.
Yeah. We're studying the same thing.
Yeah, we were.
Dude, I entirely guessed.
Yeah, so I learned it in second hours.
So, Charles is out.
What'd you say?
Okay? Then we're going to have petition of right. Okay, 1628 is before Charles is beheaded. It's when Charles ignores it.
1628.
So, do we have freedom of speech in the petition of right?
No.
What about religion? Tristan?
Yeah? No.
No. Now, by now, we've had the Protestant Reformation, and now it's the Anglican Church.
This is limited. We can say limited freedom.
No, no, no. You either have it or you don't.
It's limited. Like
No.
They have choices at least. It's not freedom. It's not a theocracy.
That's why we're not asking if they have limited freedom of religion.
Are Catholics persecuted in 1628?
Yes.
Yes, but
Yes.
Puritans persecuted it.
Well, they will eventually be.
Eventually, but not at the moment. But I will.
It's like the same situation before. Catholics.
Yes. What about freedom of the press? No. Right to bear arms?
No.
How about quartering of soldiers in your homes? Yeah, that's in there, isn't it? It's explicit. What about unreasonable search and seizure?
No.
Now, I do want to mention this, guys, because the Magna Carta stood for 400 years, all right? It's kind of like us studying the Constitution today. It stood for over 230 years, okay? So, we study it. We know it. So people in 1628, when they had the Petition of Right, you're not getting rid of rights that you had under the Magna Carta. They're kind of assumed that you have these in the English common law. So anything that we find in a previous document is going to be extended to the following document. Yes?
There seems to be a large gap.
Of 400 years?
Well, no. Well, yeah, but I'm talking about
What are you
like
getting at here?
we go from Magna Carta, right,
Uh-huh.
where these nobles are petitioning,
Yeah.
and then we flip the page to.
Now we have a parliament.
Now we have a parliament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these are the constitutions. So,
What document established with Parliament?
Yeah.
Like,
Magna Carta.
we're missing a lot of the English government.
yeah, it evolves over the 400 years.
Magna Carta over time evolves
And then they say, wait a second. We need to put this down in writing. We need to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So we're going to write a new constitution. And we're going to call this the Petition of Right. Just to make sure everybody's on the
Do they
same page.
mention the Parliament in there?
In the
Other than the right of Parliament, do they not say
Yeah.
that the people have a right to Parliament?
they have, what is it? It says free election of
Oh, okay.
Parliament. Is that in this one? The church shall be free. Oh, I'm on the Magna Carta, sorry. Okay. It was declared and enacted by the authority of Parliament that no man should be put out of his land. Yeah. It's not explicit in here, the free election. That's not till the next one. Okay. So what are we on? Due process?
Yeah.
That's in there? Yes?
Yes.
Trial by jury?
Yes.
Yes. Excessive fines or bail?
Yes.
Some people are saying yes.
I said
Who said yes? Christo? Nobody? Okay. No argument there. Cruel punishment? Huh? Do you have it?
I did.
Why?
I can go back and look for it.
Will you? Due process, baby. So it says, nor imprisoned, disinherited, nor put to death without being brought to answer by due process of law. So you can still do that. You can still punish people. They just have to have due process.
You said death was cruel.
Huh?
You said death was cruel.
Who said that?
Yeah.
Supreme Court in 1976. And then they reversed it. And then said it was up to the states to determine whether it was cruel. Which is the way it should be. It's called federalism, people. Okay. You want to live in a state that doesn't have the death penalty? Guess what? You can move to a state where there's no death penalty. You want to create a state where there's no guns? You can do that. Oh, wait, you can't. Because the Second Amendment protects your individual right. See? Supreme law of the land, the Constitution. The Eighth Amendment says no cruel and unusual punishment in our Bill of Rights. But when they wrote that, they were still hanging people. So, all right. Next. Right to petition in the Petition of Right.
No.
No. Except for the Parliament. The nobility. Okay? La 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 la. Okay. Habeas corpus in the Petition of Right.
Yeah.
Yay. All right, now we get into a soap opera here. Charles has been beheaded. We get the Long Parliament. We're going to get restoration of the crown in 1660 with Charles II. Charles II does not have a son. He has no heir except his brother James, who is what?
Catholic.
Catholic. That poses a problem.
Because that is not the
So, I don't know if you guys know this or not, whether they teach you this. The Parliament passed what were called the Clarendon Codes for James. And they said, James the Catholic, you will not employ Catholics in your cabinet. And if you do have a son, that son will be baptized in a Protestant church, in the Anglican church, not in the Catholic church. So James has a son, an heir to the throne. And he has him baptized in a Catholic ceremony. Well, Parliament wants his head. So he flees to France to hang out with Louis XIV. So the British need a new king. This is called the Glorious Revolution. Not so glorious for Catholics, but glorious for Protestants. So they're going to go find William from the Netherlands, right? And he's a perfect fit because he's got a strong army and he hates the French. And the bloodline continues because Mary of William and Mary is Mary of Braganza from another marriage that James had. And so the bloodline continues, and Mary and William will come on board, and the Parliament will say to them, if you want to be our king, which we know you want to be the King of England, who doesn't? You will follow these rules. And here is the English Bill of Rights. Yes?
You know the funny part?
Yeah, where's the joke section?
Bloodline broke when the Normans conquered Britain. So
When the French conquered?
The original.
The Normans.
The Normans.
The Normans.
Yes, so the
What year was that?
way back
1066.
in like
Battle of Hastings.
there you go.
Nice.
And then so the British aren't even ruled by their own people. They were
It doesn't
ruled
matter.
by the French this entire time. And
By the
fact
French?
That they want their bloodline to continue is kind of funny because now.
Well, I mean, Tristan, I think you're getting into like the idea of like the identity of like the British Isles, and
Well,
I
yeah,
mean before that, when you had Harold II, before the Battle of Hastings, that was just they weren't British, they were Saxons, or they were Danes,
Or the
and
Brits,
then now it's
Britons.
specifically British.
Gotcha.
Identity is evolved.
Yes. All right, so English Bill of Rights. Hi, Alex.
Right, this is a little off topic, but because they were talking about like an identity.
Hmm?
In England, if you're born in England, are you automatically a citizen like you are here?
Nope.
I don't know.
Well, Christy.
Tristan, do you know something we don't know?
No, but I know that a lot of European Union do it by fathership. So like whoever your father was, wherever he's a citizen, you are a citizen. So like I have a friend who was born in like Nicaragua, but since her dad is German, she's German, Spanish, and
Nicaraguan?
Yeah.
But you're still born with citizenship.
That's cool.
All right, so do we have freedom of speech in the English Bill of Rights? No, we do not. Do we have freedom of religion? No, we do not. Do we have freedom of press? No, we do not. Do we have the right to bear arms? You found that?
There's no right to bear arms in England unless you're hunting foxes. Then you can have small rifles.
Oh, it had an unlicensed button like they have in the typical Civil War canon.
Soldiers in your house?
No.
What Nazi?
Well, it's an extension of the earlier. Okay. Because this is something really that is going to affect the colonists and anger the colonists. Did you find it?
No, I just read the wrong one.
Okay. Unreasonable search and seizure. English Bill of Rights. No. Due process? Yes. Anytime, guys, when they're talking about if somebody's arrested or dealing with the government and they're talking about this is how you're treated, that's due process. Okay? Trial by jury? That is due process. Okay? Excessive fines and bail?
Yes.
Yes. Cruel and unusual punishment? Yes. Right to petition? Amen. Free election, free election, free election. Expression, form of speech.
So they don't have freedom of religion
No.
in their constitution.
No.
just like, hey, Muslims, get out of here.
Well, they might have it from now, in more recent constitutions, but I'm not aware. Habeas corpus? Not in there, but an extension, okay? All right, so guys, what's the purpose of this?
This is where our laws come from.
Yeah.
Where our rights, okay?
Well, our rights come from God.
That's right. And some are man-made, okay? Now, the first four on there, guys. Three of the first three are in our First Amendment in the Bill of Rights, okay? The freedom of speech, the freedom of press, and the freedom, what's the third one? Religion, press, yeah. Okay, so, guys, this is important. And then the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, is the right to bear arms. Now, we are different. Okay? We are different. And people love to make comparisons to European countries. We've talked about this in here previously, haven't we? Right? But, guys, I know some of you in here are probably see yourselves as pretty patriotic. Okay? And it might bother some of you to see somebody burn this flag in protest or defecate on it in protest. That might bother you. It bothers me. It bothers me. Okay, but here's the point. This is freedom of expression, an extension of speech. It's an expression of protest, right to petition. Okay? This right is more valuable, okay, than a law that would prevent it. Okay? Because we're not free if we can't do that. We're not free if we have laws that prevent us from saying things that are hateful, like hate speech. There are people in this country that are ready for hate speech laws. Say we need laws that prevent hate speech. I had a student in my current events class. He said, shouldn't we stop like the KKK from using hate speech? And I'm like, no. Okay? That's the wrong thing to do.
But Mr. Ebright, they're a hateful organization. Why would we not want to stop them spreading their hateful ideology?
Yeah, the right.
Because who determines what is hate speech? Who gets to determine it? So if let's say we're having a talk about Islam, okay, and you were to say something that somebody might feel is like, I think that the Sharia law is incompatible with constitutional law. Oh, well, that's Islamophobic. That's hate speech. In Europe, guys, they're starting to fine people and put people in jail for hate speech. In Canada, they're doing this. Okay? Guys, what I said, Sharia law, and YouTube, you can see this, okay? Sharia law is incompatible with secular constitutional government. They don't jive. Okay? We, as individuals, might live by biblical laws, the Ten Commandments and so forth, but the Ten Commandments are not our laws. You understand? Okay, so we have freedom of religion, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of expression. We are truly free. But if you make the law that says you can't burn this flag in protest, then you're no longer free. Okay? The KKK is a bunch of ignorant idiots. Okay, their numbers are down to like 5,000 or 6,000 people. In the 1920s, there were 4.5 million members of the K. Society will take care of it. There are still neo-Nazis and hate groups. The Black Panthers, for instance, and some people would say Black Lives Matter is a hate group. Okay? You're still allowed to have them. People are free to speak their minds. Alex first.
Have you seen Django Unchained?
Oh, that's great.
I saw Django.
Do you remember that one KKK scene with Jonah Hill in it?
I don't really remember the movie very well. I've seen it.
Well,
They all run up and they want to lynch Django and then the dude he was with, you know.
Uh-huh.
And they're riding like, I can't anything because like who made these costumes? It's like
My wife has been
it's-
up all night throwing 50 handbags for all
They
you
go off-
ungrateful sons.
They go off on like for like 10 minutes, just like saying, whose fault is it that we can't see through these
Yeah,
costumes?
that's funny. Yeah.
We should watch that. So is hate speech law? Is it? Do you know, perchance, is it discriminatory? Like, if I'm hateful against a minority group, versus
Yeah.
if I'm hateful against a hate group, like, if I were to say like.
It's usually protecting minorities.
Okay, but if I were to say the KKK is a bunch of ignorant idiots, as you just did, would
Yeah.
that be considered hate speech? Whereas if I said, I don't want to say this on camera, but if I said a
Then
certain
don't say
group
it.
of people are all ignorant idiots,
You're allowed to say it.
right? So how would hate speech differentiate between
So there's
the
protected
KKK
classes, protected
and
classes.
a protected class?
So like, gays and lesbians in certain
right,
countries
why
have
do they get
protected
special
class.
protection over other people in these countries?
Well,
Tristan,
what's-
because
that's
they've
the
been
point. They just
historically
decide.
oppressed.
Yeah, they decide.
They've been
Somebody, somebody gets to
oppressed.
decide what is
Yeah,
hate speech and what is
but, like,
not.
what's the reasoning?
I mean, like, what is the reasoning?
Yeah, like what reason
Well,
do they give?
Like in Canada,
I would like to know.
they're supposed to use for like transgender people when they're like, oh, I identify as a male. When
No, but like,
when
what is the
female.
reasoning behind it?
They
Well,
should,
it's-
Tristan, to end
What
the
do you
years
think? It's
of
like,
abuse.
I identify as a woman, so call me by he, she
Yeah,
pronouns.
right.
So you're not talking about
It,
he, she
it's
pronouns?
it's to prevent hate. It's to prevent people from being
I
persecuted.
understand that, but
That's
like,
the reason.
why are specific groups protected over other groups? Like, what is
Because
it?
one is a minority and one is a majority.
It's just not a valid statement.
Tristan,
Well, wait a second. Stop.
We agree.
Stop. Listen, here's the difference. Okay? Look, rights are different. Remember when we talked about principles of democracy? Majority rules, minority rights. You have to protect people's rights, not their feelings, but their rights. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, what governments are doing by passing hate speech laws is trying to protect people's feelings and them from being persecuted. Okay, now guys, is it acceptable to make fun of Catholics in America?
Yeah.
Happens all the time. Christians too. Okay? I mean, I can make fun of you guys, but I'm not going to because I want to keep my job. But you guys can make fun of me. Marcus does all the time. Okay?
Wait. For example, how?
Call me a heathen. Okay?
Really?
Wait,
Call it a
really?
heathen?
No, heathen. Okay. But hey, listen. This is acceptable, and when Christians get made fun of, they don't go out and start riots and start killing people over it. All right. I don't know if you're familiar with the cartoon in France. There's a magazine there, and they're pretty provocative, aren't they? What's the name of that? Charlie Hebdo. Charlie Hebdo. And so they did like a cartoon of Muhammad. Okay, in Islam, guys, you're not supposed to draw the image of Muhammad, period. You're not supposed to draw the image, okay? But they did like a turban with like TNT in it, okay? Yeah, it's funny, okay? All right, so, but what happened? The magazine got attacked, and some of the people, the workers got killed, okay, at the magazine, okay? This is the difference. This is why certain religions tend to be more compatible. Okay? Moderate Muslims aren't going to go out and kill people if you paint a picture or a cartoon of Muhammad. They might be offended, like Christians might be offended, by certain, art or certain things that are said about Christianity. Okay? Sure, whatever it may be. I mean, it's perfectly acceptable. Okay? So, guys, this is important to our way of life, and it's so easy on college campuses. So, guys, I read this today. How many guys know who Steve Bannon is?
I knew at one point, but I forgot.
He's the former editor of Breitbart magazine. He an advisor to Trump during the campaign, and then after, and now he's since left. Okay, the University of Chicago, which is one of our best institutions of higher learning in this country, University of Chicago, their business school, the dean of their business school invited Steve Bannon to come talk. Okay, and he gave an explanation for why he's inviting Steve Bannon. What does Steve Bannon stand for? Well, he's for nationalism, economic nationalism, and opposed to globalism when it comes to business. And you see this with President Trump trying to repatriate and bring businesses back here. You saw him put a couple of tariffs on some items. So the professor wanted to bring in Steve Bannon, who has this ideology of anti-globalism, to debate the faculty on this issue, because the President of the United States in many ways agrees with Steve Bannon. So would this not be a great debate topic for business students at the University of Chicago, who are some of the brightest minds, young minds in America? Would that not be an important debate to have? Yet, as soon as people find out about it, they're on the steps of the school building protesting Steve Bannon coming to campus. Ban Bannon. Stop hate speech. That sort of thing. Okay, and it's ludicrous that on our college campuses you're not allowing this debate to take place. On college campuses, these are where ideas need to be exchanged and debated. And if you're right, you're going to win the debate. Okay, so win it and show people that you're right. Don't shut people down. Don't shut down their speech. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem that I see a lot. People argue is like they'll say that someone's not credible or like studying enough to argue something, but I think like if you're studying incredibly, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Instead of you can't talk because you don't know. You should be able, like you said, to win the argument.
Right.
But so many people
just want to shut it down.
Like
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. That's what
Okay. And Ben's a great guy, and he's really smart. He's great debater, and you can pull up all kinds of debates he's had with people, and he's got really solid backing for his beliefs. A lot of those are religious in nature, okay, which is fine. Okay, but yeah, so hey, open it up. Open it up. Come on, guys. This idea of banning speech is dangerous. It's akin to burning books. It's what it is. It's like burning books. It's like Fahrenheit 451. It's like 1984. Don't let America turn into that. Yeah, do we have hateful people and cruel and mean people in this country? Yeah, of course we do. We've always had that. Okay? Go ahead.
I've seen videos too. Ben Shapiro will be going to give like a talk at a college, and people will sit there and scream white supremacist at him. And he's just sitting there like, I'm a Jew. I'm not even white.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they won't let him talk.
No, there's. Well, how about what happened with the Cleveland Indians?
What happened?
Cleveland Indians have getting rid of Chief Wahoo,
What?
who is the little Indian logo with the kind of the big smile. He's got the feather coming out. Major League Baseball, it wasn't Cleveland. It was the Major League Baseball's making them do away with that logo. Okay? And what really drives me crazy, because ESPN has become like MSNBC. And this guy, there's a little clip on the ESPN app about this, and he goes, well, it's pretty obvious that most of the Cleveland fans have said, yeah, it's time to move on from this. I'm like, what are you kidding me? I imagine, I talked to Sister Dolores, she's an Indians fan. She's like, I'm so mad. Why are they getting rid of Chief Wahoo? Okay? Chief Wahoo's, it's kind of but it's politically offensive. Okay? So we're gonna ban it.
Do they not? They do wear feathers in their hair. That's not racist. I mean, like, to be fair, like it is a caricature of a Native American. Like.
Okay. So North High, Kansas City Chiefs, Washington Redskins, and you know what? There's a lot of Native Americans that are not offended by it. Okay? Some people are going to be offended. Some people aren't. Okay? It's a free country. The freaking Indians want to have Chief Wahoo, they can. If Indians want to protest it, they can. Make a case. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, just like with my family in Michigan, with Central Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
with the Chippewas, their like tribe there actually wanted the university to be the Chippewas.
Of course. It's a celebration. So what, are we just going to ban the use of the Indian name all the way around and just forget about them? Or do the Kansas City Chiefs, now the Chiefs is actually based off a former mayor of Kansas City who everybody called Chief, who wasn't Indian. So they can't do away with that because it was named after this guy that everybody just called Chief.
Yeah, because there's something like it's
Guy.
all right.
All right, hey, how much time we got? How many? 35? What, 45? Hey, guys, if you will, I wanted to do this. Remember yesterday I talked about Charles Carroll, who was the only Catholic to sign the Declaration of Independence? I mentioned that? Okay, so last night I went and found my notes and looked over my notes. Father Weldon let me borrow this book. It's called American Cicero, about Charles Carroll. All right? The life of Charles Carroll. And I just kind of wanted to go over my notes from the two-day Reagan Institute about Charles Carroll and give you a little bit of Catholic history here, okay? We're talking about Maryland, and it started as the proprietor of Lord Baltimore, okay? Now, in 1634 is when Maryland, as the charter for Maryland is founded, 1634, okay? And in 1649, they passed what was called the Act of Toleration, which gave freedom of worship to Trinitarian Christians and Catholics. That was 1649, but it's not going to last. Okay? By 1660, about 10% of the population of Maryland is Catholic, Irish Catholic. Okay? About 4,000 Irish Catholics. Okay? By 1770, there's about 80,000 people in Maryland, and still about 10 to 12% are Catholic. In 1689, you get the Glorious Revolution that we talked about in here earlier, right? And this is where England becomes hardcore Protestant. That's going to have rippling effects in Maryland. So the Act of Tolerations that allowed Catholics to worship freely is going away. Okay? It's rescinded in 1689. The Irish are still coming, but there becomes anti-immigrant laws against the Irish in 1689, 1691. Okay? Catholics are free in 1691, but they cannot own land. The Carrolls show up, the Carroll family shows up in 1689. Okay? Daniel Carroll was born in 1659. He comes to New World. And his son in 1680 is Charles Carroll. This is going to be the first of 3 Charles Carrolls. Okay? In 1670, Charles Carroll of Annapolis, the son, is the richest man in the colonies. Charles Carroll of Annapolis. His son, Charles Carroll III of Carleton, is sent to Europe for 16 years to be educated. He's educated in France and then at Oxford in London. Okay? In 1756, the Militia Act is passed. Catholics are not allowed to join the militia, so they have to pay double in taxes because they can't join the militia. They can't serve, and how do they pay for that? There's no dollars at this point, so they're using gold, silver, and tobacco to pay their taxes. Okay? In 1757, Charles of Annapolis marries, has the kid, Carleton, Charles III. At 22 years old, the father gets the inheritance, becomes the richest man. The son is educated, comes back, and he studied both civil liberties, he studied religious freedom, he's looked at the French model, and then he studied these British common law and these British constitutions, and he likes the British style. Even though he's Catholic, he likes what the British philosophers are saying, like Locke. Okay, he buys into this. Natural law and rights. Okay, freedom, toleration, and freedom. Let us live. Okay. Slavery increases because the slowdown in immigration from Ireland, because a lot of the Irish were the workers, like indentured servants. So when they stopped letting the Irish in, there was more slavery. Okay? And, guys, the church does own slaves. When the French and Indian War starts, okay, and the British get the debt, he writes a letter to his father, and he starts arguing for rights. So what Charles Carroll sounds like, he sounds like Thomas Jefferson. He sounds like Sam Adams. He sounds like John Hancock. He's writing this stuff. He moves back to Maryland in 1765. This is the Revolutionary era. He marries Molly. Molly, who's Catholic, has a lot of friends. She's well connected in the Protestant world. She knows a lot of Protestants. So his wife, Molly, is going to help him get into these circles of Protestants. Okay? And he's super rich. They have 7 kids. 3 of them will die. Then we get the Stamp Act. Okay? Tobacco fees. Rights are brought into, are being trampled on. In Maryland, in 1773, so this is right before the First and Second Continental Congress that we're going to be talking about, guys. 1773, he gets into this debate through the newspaper in the Maryland Gazette. You can go back and look at these debates. Okay, he uses a pen name. He doesn't use his own name. His pen name is First Citizen. And his argument is a moral and philosophical argument. And he's a strong author. He dominates this debate in the newspaper. Okay, arguing for 3 branches of government, spirit of liberty. The English Constitution has rights, and we cannot be denied those rights in the New World. He speaks of republican government, not democracy. So he really fits the same mold as many of these founders. Okay. He writes a document called Governing Parties in May of 1774. And then the Boston Tea Party, guys, is in 1773. Not many people know this, and I didn't know this until Father Weldon taught us. There was a Tea Party in Maryland in 1774, October 15th. And the ship was called the Peggy Stewart. And the people stormed the Peggy Stewart and threw the tea into the bay. Okay, into the harbor. So, he publishes several articles in the Gazette, and during this time, guys, he's talking about cultivation of reason, protection of reason, education, when to rebel, how to protect liberty and property. These are all topics he's writing about. And so, at the Maryland Convention, so guys, each one of these colonies is going to have a convention to send delegates to the First and Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. And it is there at the Maryland Convention that Charles Carroll, the Catholic, Charles Carroll III of Carleton, is sent to Philadelphia for Maryland, one of the delegates. Okay? And that's how his name winds up on the Declaration of Independence. All right? After the war starts, He is named to the Board of War. Okay? And he lost a lot of money by signing the Declaration of Independence. Because he had a lot of business with the British. Okay? So he's going to lose a lot of money, like a lot of the founders are. They're putting themselves in danger. He works on things like suffrage for all men, where they can own property, they can vote. Legal tender, confiscation of Tory property. These are things he's working on in the Second Continental Congress. Saving the Confederacy of the new country. Okay. After the Constitution is written, he stays in Maryland to fight for state interests, and they will send 2 other Catholics to the Constitutional Convention. So there'll be 1 Catholic at the Declaration, signing the Declaration, and 2 Catholics at the Constitutional Convention. Okay?
Was Carol there at the?
He stayed home to work on state issues.
Was he at the battle of Lexington?
Hey, make sure you subscribe.